Where was it?
Hello, how are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
Oh, good here.
Dylan. Hello, Gamir. 8:32. Let's start. There's nothing in the agenda. Does anyone have anything?
So to give an update, we're making progress. I'm just setting up now JMeter. I have a problem yesterday with the SRE team that simply cannot reprovision the boxes. There is some bug in something that they added regarding versions of Ubuntu. Because it seems they're attempting to migrate to Ubuntu 20 or 18, but in production we have 16, and I'm keeping the environment as production. So I have some drawback yesterday, but I'm trying to fix this as soon as possible and trying to release the environment, okay? This is from my side.
Camille, you're up.
Nothing in the particular. I think like I asked about review of some MRs of mine with the anticipation of like other changes when we can start use them. Not sure what else to add to that. I know, Dylan, that you reviewed all of these things.
Yeah, my day started today with 10 merge requests assigned to me. Several of them were yours, I think. And I have just finished them before this call, finished everything assigned to me. But yeah, thank you for putting all of that together and actually making some of our abstract conversations more concrete.
I think like the valid concern of you like about the structure SQL changes, and to be honest, like I don't know how it evolves. I think like we are still like trying and testing different approaches how to handle that. So I'm still like kind of in a phase that like we are not breaking anyone. So let's try something different and much closer to like what we discussed with a Tonk on another issue about the singular structure. Because like I think like at least in my perspective, like I have like much better perspective on how to do some of this stuff like this cross noise. I have still like pretty blurry like how to do the structure SQL stuff. But I'm kind of also anticipating that like if we can match these things earlier, we will be one step closer to figure out what is like the best way. And hopefully, like at least with these like cross joins, this could be like a good building block for the work that Adam is right now doing on the 2PC. Because like we may not yet enable that everywhere, but like we can have some bits initially ready to kind of like refine them once we start leverage them in much wider and like also like this is related with these disabled ones, how to handle that. Like we could actually like figure out how to handle joins.
That disable joins, I realize my comment saying it's not useful yet is actually wrong. We can let people use that when they want to submit a merge request to fix a cross join. They can add their prevent cross joins to their test and prove that that thing no longer cross joins, and they'll be able to see a failure and a green test. So I think it is good.
It's more tricky because the lack of the disabled joins in a lot of cases we generate too many failures that will be served differently. But I mean, like,
if they're just testing a scope, if they're just testing their scope, it'll probably be pretty good. They're unlikely to call the has many through method, right?
It's tricky as well. For example, factory for the runners executes some policy checks on the creation that exhaust has many through relation on the object creation. So it's not so straightforward, I think, but like we are one step closer with that. And for some cases, it's exactly gonna be as you are describing, that we could actually use that. But in some cases, it's just gonna generate too many failures that we're gonna have to whitelist some of the things. But one problem at a time. We're gonna figure out how to handle disable joins.
It depends on the specific circumstances, but we might to execute joins. You don't always need data. Like a lot of the joins don't require you to actually use the factories to generate all of the stuff that would be returned before you can see a join query that fails. Imagining like vulnerabilities and other things like that, you can maybe get a minimal amount of data without creating those joins, without the factory stuff.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of the single SQL single structure. It matches the POC as well, and no one's using it.
I guess it's just everybody on the team kind of may run into issues when they bring that branch in. They'll have to kind of recreate their CI database because the schema will be wrong, but that's just us.
Yes. Yeah, I guess I'm happy to hold a quick workshop to if you need to reset your database, but the short answer is drop the CI database.
Yes, I was thinking that if we would have this structure SQL merge, I would then really, the next step after that would be try to enable some kind of testing of like two databases on the CI to run that alongside in some circumstances, because this would be, I think, a natural step to start exhaust like instance variable. Because I noticed that we merged CI application record and we also have this intermediate CI database something stuff. So I think like we are in kind of would be pretty good, decent shape to start testing many databases by default without, I think, a big impact on any other development. Maybe, I don't know, as part of the extended test suite, running in the additional flavor, I don't know, something along these lines to actually make it possible to run.
Yeah, I think there's one more thing we need to fix, which is or disable, which is partitions. It's not working with multiple databases as in CI. So that's the
yes. Partitions are broken, but fortunately, CI database doesn't use partitioning today. So
yeah, so we can disable it for CI database in CI.
So probably we can somehow work around, or like mark partitioning simply to not work on another database. I don't know. I'm kind of thinking like how to deal with that by not fixing that yet. I don't know. We will figure out the way.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, but just a general reminder.
Camille, I did have another thought about your cross joins, Emma. We could actually give people a way to provide a code block in their test. So we just yield and validate only what's in their code block. So that way we would ignore all the factory stuff before the test setup and so on. I was going to leave that as a comment on there. That way people can use that tool today to isolate and validate that they've fixed a problem.
I think this is a good idea. So maybe like, can we merge like this one? I'm just gonna then hook up like another one, adding the yield block.
Yeah, it's up to Adam to merge it. I've already approved.
So this will be, I think this can be like a valid, because like one thing that exactly what you were saying, like I noticed like some comments from some verified folks how I can validate that. So this could be pretty handy for giving people a way to validate.
It would be good to, I mean, I'm happy to take that action too. If you don't get to that, I'll do that tomorrow, because I can add that tool to the docs, because we have docs about removing joins, and now we can extend those docs with how to validate that you've actually removed the join by using this test technique.
So, okay, if you could like take that, like, and on top of this MR, add this like the function for yielding and update the documentation, please. I think it would be great help for me.
Yeah, sure. I will do that tomorrow. If your merge request gets merged in the meantime, I'll create a new merge request. If your merge request is not merged and Adam hasn't reviewed it yet, then I'll push to yours.
Okay, because then I could like on the Thursday we could like review and merge yours very quickly, I hope. So we would have like some testing for other folks that we could announce.
Camille, do you want to talk about that performance issue with runners, group runners then?
Yes, it's exactly what we talked on the Monday. It's another way to simply disable joins, but with plugging. But it also has like the same. Actually, it's pretty worse than disable joins, because disable joins always have some sort of the limit. But here we are plugging, and like in this kind of cases, this is what I also like raised in the comment, that like we need to understand the quantity of the data sets and somehow figure out a way to safely roll out that. But I mean, this is one of the examples, and I think that you, Dylan, kind of did go through some of these examples with the secure team. So I'm kind of thinking like, is really like this way of solving will be a pattern for a lot of these changes? If it is, all of these patterns will have the same implications about the performance. If it is, we need to kind of, I don't know, teach people on how to properly measure that and how to properly roll out that, because like the change in this form, I think it's unsafe to be merged, because like we don't know the quantities of these data sets. We don't know how many entries we're gonna plug. We don't check any SQLs and things like that. So I think like if you are doing this kind of changes, we need to be more thorough. So then my question is like how we could kind of create a template or like provide a guidance, maybe do some Q&A session with people,
Yeah.
maybe on your work, how to properly like sort these things to ensure that we don't cause the harm to the performance.
Yeah, I agree. This one is looking like it's going to be in the category of the easy option of pluck is not a good idea. I don't, it doesn't look right to me either. I'm kind of confused because you're building a list of runner IDs and you're plucking those into memory and then you're using them in a where query for a runner. But that's the same table. So I don't think this is actually solving the problem. The pluck needs to be on groups. This is not quite right.
Yes, like there is cross-join between runner namespace and groups here, definitely. The project ID is solved. But anyway, like
Okay.
the cross-join validation will actually discover that the system properly solved. But I think this is shows like the bigger problem, which is like the pluck.
Yeah, but you don't need the pluck for this because project ID is already a column on CI runners. So project ID is already good. If it's only one group ID, then we should solve it the same way. There's no plucks needed for this one. This can be solved without plucking anything into memory. You already have namespace ID, project ID. It's only a single ID that was being joined to, and
Yes, but like the group dot where ID group ID.
that's one thing. So it was never necessary.
Yeah, actually, I think you're actually
all tables are in the same database. That's what you're saying.
Well, yeah, groups, you never actually needed to query groups and you never needed to query projects. So it's all way simpler to solve than all this.
Dylan, it's actually pretty much worse. Because we are assuming the group ID and the project ID is a single integer value. But it can actually be an array.
Oh, that's the
or like a scope.
Oh.
So like the naming of the arguments is misleading because if you don't like it's like the object ID or array of the relation, so you don't know exactly how this is being used.
Yeah, you're right. That's just the Rails thing where you can use integer array. Okay, yes, you're right. Project ID is still fine though. You don't actually need to pluck for the project because that
it can be we don't know.
Oh, you don't need to pluck for the group either. It's not doing any group tree traversing, so you can use arrays without joining here. You can use arrays on the parent tables where namespace ID array of IDs.
So it's still like you don't know what is on pass as the group ID parameter.
Yeah, if it's an array of integers, it's fine. The only issue is if that is a relation, which seemingly you can get away with, which is ridiculous. Okay. Okay. In any case, the plucks are in the wrong place in that code right now.
Definitely in a case of the groups.
No, pluck runner ID was never necessary.
Yeah, just pluck group IDs and pluck project IDs.
Yeah, exactly. We should be plucking group IDs and project IDs, not runner IDs.
Anyway, but I think it kind of shows like we need to provide people a way to ensure that it's properly tested.
Yes, exactly.
Because they will simply get the solution wrong. Okay, I think this is Tom, do you want to talk about like your item?
Number 6, sure. So I'm trying to add schema and trying to push that through to production. So basically, we're trying to use schema for dev and test, but we're pushing it for production so that it's consistent and also such that the DB structure is all the same and we don't have to developer doesn't have to switch back and forth between schema and schemaless, right? The problem is that not every GitLab instance can switch to using schema as like search paths to the new search path immediately. So the strictly speaking, we have to wait for every single GitLab instance to auto row or set schema search path in our database before we can even have these schemas in the DB structure. I think DB structure is used because, for example, in the source installations, we use DB reset. I don't know about Omnibus and CNG, but I presume like when you first install GitLab, it uses DB structure. It doesn't migrate from scratch. So yeah. So ideas welcome. Yeah,
I have some idea. I have some idea. I have to look exactly like what you tested. I will write like on your comments throughout the day if it helps.
Okay, thanks. Do you want to talk about 4 or 5 for me?
I'm not really sure. It's more like, I guess, from my FOI of what I need to do and what I think like we kind of reach the consensus of. Not sure. If you have any questions or suggestions, I'm welcome on these points.
Yeah, I think we're all aligned. So in regards to the omnibus, I think this shows the value of having the distribution to be involved because they are finding a lot of downstream issues from multiple databases. So it's quite nice that they're discovering all that.
I'm kind of thinking that the like kind of tipping point in the discussion was that like we can still support like 2 forms of the configs because I think they were simply worried that like if they switched they gonna break, but we still like I think for 1 maybe at most 2 releases can support like 2 ways of config.
Yes, it is backwards compatible.
Which is I think like the most important aspect that like it's that application simply works. We
Yes.
like it to change.
At first I thought they were talking about some other component outside of GitLab Rails that doesn't support this, right? So that wasn't the case. So I think we're all aligned now, distribution and us. So hopefully it's good.
So maybe I have one final question like from me, like is there like anything in particular, Jose, Tong, and Dylan, outside of the things that we discussed that you want me like to take a look at?
In what sense exactly?
Anything like you need some, I don't know, unblock, block, or like some additional info on anything that would unblock you or like forward.
My main blocker at the moment is the SRE team, because like what I was provisioning 2 weeks ago or 1 week ago, I cannot do it now because they broke something, fixing something else. Because unfortunately, our provisioning system here doesn't have any testing level, so it's a bit of black box. Sometimes break things. After this, I think I will have JMeter running soon, and I think we can start to do some tests or plan how we will be our breaking or failover strategy and see more where we need to tune things. Sounds good.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. Yes.
I don't think I need anything. No, I think what you're doing is good. It sounds like the biggest kind of concern we have upcoming, which you're aware of already, is just like figuring out how structure and migrations are going to be handled. I mean, I think your current tactic may be wait and see a little bit, but I think those are the biggest challenges and unknowns for the whole team that may factor into certain decisions we're making. But they're also the hard questions that we've gone back and forth on many times.
Well, what I see here is like we will have all the traffic in one cluster as we have nowadays. How we will do our strategy? We will split the traffic in between two PG bouncers as we spoke briefly, normal and CI traffic. We can, I think, like the main point is how we will stop the traffic. We can block by the what goes to one PG bouncer and leave the other traffic.
Jose, I was referring to something Camille asked me a second ago, and I wasn't responding to your comment. Yeah. But anyway, I think the how we block traffic thing is probably the next thing we are. Yeah, it is going to be relevant to how we run the migration too, which is what you're talking about. And I'm curious to know if we end up making decisions on that too. But that wasn't what I was specifically referring to a second ago. That's all
right. Yes, I think, Dylan, you are correct. Like, we have this structure migration stuff like to figure out, but I think we're gonna be pretty much fine. We are like, we know 10 more things than we know like in the past discussions about how to deal with this stuff. So, but it's still funny. Okay, I think that's it from me. Any other final words?
Have a good day, everyone.
So I say thank you and good luck. Keep swimming towards the shore on this hard, complex project.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.